Hey fans, I'm Scott Warris. It's time for our Week 8 Warriors football preview with the coach, Eric Tresky. Coach, welcome back. Congratulations. Team gets the big win last Saturday at Eureka, 42-14. We were talking off the air, and I mentioned it in a couple things earlier this week. One of those games where you can't just look at the stats. If you're just looking at the stats, it really doesn't tell you the story of the game, and it probably tells you Eureka won because you guys big plays in all facets and a big win, 3 in a row.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it started with special teams. The block punt for a touchdown set the tone. One thing about the specials unit, I think, that you don't always see in a box score is that we had a lot of short fields. So a combination of great defensive play. I think we had 16 TFLs, which is unheard of, and then great special teams. Like the offense is operating on short fields. So if you're comparing yardage and all those fun things that fantasy teams do and stuff, you're going to be like, man, I didn't see it. I don't understand how they won the game by 28. But I think those two factors contributed. And then the one thing that was nice about the offense, they hit big when those opportunities were there.
Earlier this week, Bryce Barbian, your quarterback, was named the conference's Offensive Player of the Week, and we were privileged enough to talk to him, and we'd encourage, if you haven't seen the video, to watch my chat with Bryce from earlier in the week here on WLCSports.com. Very telling. I think it was very revealing, the way he's wired. I think you and I have talked about it before. Maybe a little bit older and wiser beyond his years just because of the journeys and the trials and tribulations he's gone through, but a really reflective young man.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, I think you can sense it. He doesn't get rattled very easily. He's been through a lot, and I think part of it too is he appreciates everything. I mean, he loves being in the meeting rooms. He loves being in the film studies. He loves being just around his teammates. He's not a true extrovert, so to speak, but you definitely see him in these like one-on-one or small groups, and they're yucking it up and having a good time. And then when it's time to work, Bryce works. He works really, really hard. And as a new player, especially as a new quarterback, to be able to capture the attention of his team, get his teammates to believe in him in the short time span that he has, I think it speaks to the type of leader that he is.
And as he told us when we were discussing just the way this offense has really come alive, that regardless of what happened at CUW, which was the second game of the year, go back the week before, the St. Norbert game, and he said something clicked or things were kind of unlocked a little bit. We picked ourselves up, literally and figuratively at sometimes, and things from there have been pretty positive.
Yeah, one of the hardest things I think, not even in just athletics, in life, is faith. It's believing that you're able to do what you're capable of. So many people need to see it first. And I felt like, at least offensively, and even as a team to some degree, but especially offensively, from the scrimmage to those first couple non-con games, as a staff, we kept saying, like, we can be special. We got to be detail-oriented. We got to be consistent. But we kept saying, like, the potential is sky high. I know you don't feel it right now, but it's there. And it can feel empty until the guys finally do it. And that second half of the Norbert's game, like he said, it was like, okay, yeah. Like everything that we've been saying and everything coaches have been probably saying over and over and over, broken record, if we finally saw it, it could be possible. And really proud just of how the guys have continued to grow, continued to work, and looking forward to seeing us finish the season strong.
Well, before we turn the page at the big matchup tomorrow, Saturday at 1 against the 15th ranked Aurora Spartans, I do want to go back and just ask you your experience last Saturday. Probably unlike any experience you've had, at least as a head coach, because of your brother, right?
Yep.
Your brother's wedding. You were in the wedding party, so you didn't make the trek down to Eureka.
Yeah.
You were watching it from afar. Obviously, the team played well in your absence, so you're very proud of that. What was that experience like for you? I mean, it had to be just absolutely, thrilling and rewarding, but yet also maddening to not be there.
It was bizarre. It was bizarre. I've never missed a game for coaching.
Okay.
But one thing that I discussed first with my wife and then with our staff, we talk about faith, family, football. That's something that our program is anchored in, and so I better live it out. And I've got one younger brother. Jordan's amazing. To be able to be a part of that special day, as much as I love football. And I love my team. I see my team more than I see my family sometimes. It was important for me to make sure that they understood, like, I'm not going to lose my sense of priorities. And And with good reason. I trust my team. I've got an amazing staff that I knew. We've been preparing for this. This was not something that we were caught off guard or, Ryan Adamovich, one of our offensive assistants, he knows our offense very well. He's very dedicated. He's an alum. He pours a lot into our program. And I talked to him in the summer, say, hey, this is going to be the deal. And I really believe you're ready to call the offense. And so as we progress throughout the season, you're going to get more and more opportunities to help me game plan, to call it during practice and in our kind of like situational times. And every reserve game, he called the offense. So he was gearing up, getting ready. And I think the last thing I'll just say about it, as weird as it was, like watching it, at my brother's wedding, we're taking wedding photos and the whole deal, and then I'm quick checking the score, and my son was watching, everyone's asking the score. It was very interesting but fun at the same time. I told my wife, she said, "How does it feel?" She asked me the same question. She's like, what are you experiencing right now? I said, honestly, like the biggest thing I'm excited to see is this is really a test of like our team culture. Really, where are we? Like, if you can remove any key person in the mix, doesn't matter if it's me or anyone on our coaching staff or one of our captains or players, if someone is unable to be a part of it, are we able to still do everything that we talk about, everything that we work toward? And I've got great people, and we did. And I'm so thankful to the staff. I know we put a lot of extra pressure on Coach Donovan, the defense, Coach Foss, and obviously Coach Adamovich and the rest of the team, but they answered it well. So
that's a great point. I mean, the systems, the infrastructure, you can take a piece out, even a piece as big as the head coach, and the entire structure still stands. Yep. And a resounding win. I would have been curious had it been still a win and like come down to a last-second field goal. How much more crazy you would have been at the win.
Yeah, I would have been pretty crazy.
Situation. Okay, a couple minutes left here. Let's turn the page. Aurora Spartans, the class of this conference. This is the golden age of Aurora Spartans football, and they deserve it. 4 straight conference titles. They've won 34 consecutive conference games. Before we talk about the challenge that the Spartans pose, let's step back for just a second, and I want to ask you this. We talked about it off the air earlier in the year. Philosophically speaking, do you think it's a good thing that there is a team, whether it's college, pro, whatever, that is kind of the king of the hill for a period? Is that good for a league? Is that good for a sport? Is that good for a conference? Or is it better if the parity is from the top to the bottom? Differing opinions on that, but where do you fall?
I'll say this. I'm going to speak relative to the NAC. Sure. I think for our conference and where we've been, it's a positive thing. We've had good football. We've had good football teams in our league in the past. But because we're a young league, because we haven't had teams really have postseason success, you sometimes, I think, have a hard time establishing yourself when it comes to playoff seedings and national recognition, all those sorts of things. And so at least within the context of the NAC, I think it's positive. Aurora's doing some good stuff that's helping people see the level of competition in our league. You have programs like, obviously Aurora's doing well, but St. Norbert's won playoff games in the past. Lakeland's been competitive in the playoffs, and obviously Benedictine has been very strong. Concordia. Mm-hmm. So people are starting to notice like there's good football played in our league, but it didn't matter until somebody won, at the national level. And so while it's challenging for us, it's non-scholarship football, so you don't have scholarships to even the playing field, and that's a good and a bad thing, because then the next check mark is really a lot of times, what's the prior success of a program. Mm-hmm. So it can create some challenges for us. At the same time, to me, we know where we got to get to. Yeah. And that's been my message all week to the guys. Like, you want to be there, and here you go. You get a chance to see where are we now? What do we need to work on? Are we capable of beating a team like that or being in that conversation? I think it's a good thing.
Yeah. Rising tide lifts all boats, and that's where the NAC is with Aurora right now, and that's well said. Okay, you kind of touched on my next question there. You probably don't have to do a lot of hyping up of the guys when you're playing a nationally ranked opponent as a head coach, but the message, if you could dive a little deeper into that, to the guys this week as you try to meet that challenge on all levels.
Yeah, it's in games like this, I think the danger is playing past performances. So you could look back and say what we did last year, it's going to happen again. there's danger in playing, kind of their pedigree or their reputation or the logo on their helmet. And that is the biggest, I really don't, as much as I respect Aurora, there's game planning that's relative to Aurora, like I want us to focus on being the best Warrior squad we can be. And that's the only way we're going to be able to play at the level we need to. So we started in the beginning of the week. Every week we start with a devotional. We try to learn a lesson from the Bible that applies to our lives right here and right now, because it's living and breathing. And the story that really resonated with me about where we're at now is the story of Moses and the 12 spies. They're getting ready to head to the Promised Land. And from a football perspective, what is that? It's where Aurora's been, right? In national playoffs and trying to compete for a title. And as they were preparing for the Promised Land, Moses sent these scouts, these spies that go into the land and, hey, tell us what it's like. What do we need to do to enter and really live up to God's promises? And the spies come back, and what's their report? Yep, it's everything we want. It's everything we thought it would be, but 10 of them say there's no way we can ever take it. The adversaries are too great. We don't have enough numbers. We don't have enough this or that. And from a football perspective, you can do the same thing. You start trying to match up and do all these things with Aurora. We can't do that. We got to be, there's two spies. There was Joshua and Caleb. They were all in, and they said, we're going to take this thing, not only because God promised it to us, but because we have everything we needed. He already provided us with what we have. And so that's been my goal for our team is let's not focus on all that Aurora has or who they are or what they've done. While it's all, we respect it. Let's focus on who we are and what we bring to the table and how we're going to present a challenge to them. And I'm excited to see us compete and see where we stack up. That's
a great example. And the best part about it is, unlike Michigan, the NCAA didn't file any violations on the children of Israel for spying. Sorry. Okay. Taking a shot at Harbaugh. Sports.info at WLC.edu. That's the email if you want to submit a question. Real quick here. Question comes from George in Tosa. This is a tie-in because the Aurora head coach is former Packer Don Beebe, wide receiver, a member of that '96 Super Bowl team. The most famous person related or tied to the NFL that you've ever met and the backstory of it. We'll put Don Beebe
that
aside.
I've ever met?
Yeah, somebody maybe as a player, as a coach at a coaching clinic or conference. Somebody related or tied to the NFL, professional football somehow, somewhere along the line.
I've been blessed to meet a bunch of different people throughout the years. Leroy Butler, a Packer that's a Hall of Famer now, was awesome. He was super generous, actually donated some things to the golf outing. Probably the most interesting story, when I was a GA at Lakeland, there was a brief moment in time where they hired Kellen Winslow, NFL Hall of Fame tight end from the Chargers. He was our athletic director. And that was interesting. It was kind of like the least like what brought Kellen Winslow out of Florida and Ohio where he was working to tiny, Howards Grove, Wisconsin to be our AD. That was a pretty crazy time, and it was short-lived. It was only a few months where that took place, and then we won't get into the details of that. But probably one of the most interesting things was that Kellen Winslow, his parting gift, so to speak, was a T-shirt with a picture of himself. That was must have been a Hall of Fame thing. I don't know what. So it was hey, it was great knowing you. Have this to remember me. And it was what just happened? Did we just get our boss's T-shirt? I can't imagine Skip giving me a Skip bobblehead or something. But that's what happened with Kellen. And he was a nice man. Yeah. We had a couple lunches together, and it was really cool to hear some of his stories and stuff. But yeah, it was for a while. I think we had Winslow Wednesday. We would wear the shirt into the office just for fun. But
do you still have the shirt?
I do not still have the shirt, unfortunately. I'm sorry, Kellen.
Skip Noon bobblehead idea.
There you go.
We're going to let that ruminate. We might have to have that happen. All right, Coach, go get him.
Thank you.
Warriors and the 15th ranked Aurora Spartans, Saturday, 1 o'clock. All the links, the video, the live stats, WLCsports.com.